Chapter 1. The Ebon Forest. With the twilight fallen over what had once been the lush kingdom of eldergloom, the Ebon Forest brooded grim and silent, its shadows stretching immeasurably beyond the reach of the twisted boughs. The air felt thick, a palatable dark that whispered of lost souls and an ancient curse. This was Sir Avelin, his own resolve past the sturdy leather of his armor and the steel of his blade. Avelin's steed bore them sedately along the deformed path of the forest. A sturdy mare named Era, her breaths beginning to mist in the coolness of the air. The knight's eyes were straight ahead, intent almost, a flicker of resolve smoldering inside them, the dusk gathering. Many were the tales of Ebon Forest treachery, but yet they paled in comparison to the task that lay before him, which was the quest for the Sunfire Crystal. And in those shadows, Avelin felt the weight of his lineage, a lineage unbroken still by the corruption that had fallen upon Eldergloom. His ancestors had stood as guardians of these lands, watchers over the light of this realm, and now he was the last, the only bearer of his family's legacy, charged with a task that was impossible. Behind lay silence, without warning or life of the forest, not the sounds of its small creatures. The drift to the hilt of his sword, Avelin had felt the eyes in the darkness, the watching ones, and then, as abruptly as the silence had come, shattered by a low growl. One of those sounds that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It was a struggle not only in steel, but in the strength of resolution of Avelin's mind against the attempt of the forest to snare it. With each and every swing of his sword, he fought back the darkness, his thoughts upon the people of Eldergloom, of the kingdom which once was. And with the last of the phantom beasts felled, dissolving into the black shadows they had risen from, Avelin gasped and took a moment to look up at the strip of sky visible through the canopy above him. The stars, so far away, were a reminder of the light he would restore, of the Sunfire Crystal's ability to cleanse land of its corruption. With renewed determination, Avelin pushes on. The depths of Ebon Forest called him deeper into its heart. The fraught road with danger ahead of him, each step was to be the dance with death himself. Yet unbroken stood the night, a spirit that spoke to the light ever present, a light that could never be snuffed out fully by darkness. The chapter ends with Avelin and Era bursting from the embrace of the forest, their ordeal through the Ebon Forest, a harrowing tale of courage against the very shadows. Beyond lies Eldergloom, inextricably linked to Avelin's quest, one that marks the first chapter in a saga to save the kingdom. Chapter 2. Whispers and Shadows. Eldergloom was a realm bound to dominion draped with the shadows of the tight hold of the Ebon Forest. The very hollows of its faces had also become full of great cracks. The plain now dried off all soil and life, a proof of the darkness which had crept up the very essence of the land. Into the very heart of desolation, Sir Avelin and Era pressed, faint hope guiding them further still, that perhaps there the Sunfire Crystal could be found and its corruption cleansed. All of a sudden, as the sun set down, silhouettes of a village emerged on the horizon. It was huddling with its buildings like a flock of frail sparrows in a vain effort to ward off the approach of the dark. Avelin cautiously moved forward, aware that in these days the remnants of humanity could be driven to desperation, or worse, madness. The once bustling village, alive with the sounds of trade and laughter, was silent, the streets empty. Dismounting, Avalon led Era with the reins as they passed along the cobbled path, his steps pounding in the unnerving quiet. Doors were barred from within, windows shuttered, and the air hung heavy with a sense of foreboding. Then the whispers began, at first a rustling, the softest hint in the sound of leaves, until it gained urgency and filled Avalon's ears with its cacophony of voices. In the firelight, people huddled behind the walls of their homes, talking of the coming of a night, with words of fear and suspicion. "He comes too late," came a voice, venom in its whisper, from where he could not tell. "Too late for us, but perhaps not for himself," another said, and the voice was despair itself. Avalon moved on, looking for some sign of welcome or help. The journey ended at the village square, where stood a statue of a long-forgotten deity, its features eroded by the never-ceasing wear of ages and neglection. Here he made his stand, calling out to the hidden villagers with a voice that cut through the whispers like a beacon. "People of eldergloom," Avalon spoke sternly and yet caring in his tone, "I don't come as the harbinger of doom, but as one who brings hope. The darkness that has clutched our land can be undone, but I can't do this alone." The proclamations fell dead on silence. The villagers were tracing the depths of sincerity in his statements against their despair. Only then an elder woman shambled up before him with a gnarled staff that she hobbled on, while clouded eyes that age had smitten upon her glared into the eyes of Evelyn, searching for the truth in his intention. "You speak of hope from the midst of shadows," she said, in a voice that held a background of loss. "What makes you think you're the one to break through in a place where so many have tried and failed?" Avalon met her gaze, his intention firm. "Because it is my duty," he said simply. "I shall journey to the very edges of eldergloom to retrieve the sunfire crystal in the names of those we have lost and those yet to be lost, that they may live again with light." The elder regarded him for a moment longer. Then she nodded. "Then you will need our help, Sir Knight. Come, there is much to prepare." As Avalon followed the elder towards the very heart of the village, the whispers died out, replaced by a cautious stir of activity. The villagers, heartened by the knight's determination, had begun to come out of hiding, faces etched with respective scars of survival. That evening, a plan was shared with the villagers by the light of flickering fire in the darkness. A story of the sorceress of Nightfall, King Alderic corrupted and the Shadowed Council. He spoke of the Ebon Forest and the Abyssal Gate, of the Phoenix of Ashes and the prophecy of the Last Ember. And as he spoke, the flame seemed to leap up and cast a warm glow onto the faces of those gathered, lighting a spark of hope into the darkness. Chapter 3, The Council of Shadows. In the cloak of darkness, Sir Avalon laid bare the scope of his quest, warmed by the flickering light of new hope set alight in the hearts of the villagers. The elder to whom the villagers paid homage, the mother Althea, listened. The wisdom, a quiet end anchor in the tempest of their fears. At the breaking of dawn, we move. Avalon's voice was a bastion of determination. The path forward is fraught with peril, but with your aid, we travel not alone into the dark. We have basked in the shadows of despair long enough, Mother Althea said, her eyes sweeping over her people. If there is a chance to reclaim our light, We stand with you, Sir Avalon. With the first light of the dawn, a dawn that awakens and pierces the night shroud, the villagers begin to assemble in the square with gifts of provisions, the remaining pieces of better days, forged into weapons, and talismans blessed by Mother Althea for their protection. Avalon, humbled by their generosity, vowed to return their world to a time when light reigned supreme. Avalon was once more mounted upon Ira, facing the village, a mosaic of hope against the land forgotten by the sun. Your courage fuels my own. Together, we shall cast out the darkness. With the village at his back and the dawn at his face, Avalon set forth toward his next destination, the ruins of Castle Thornheart, where the Shadowed Council met. For, the legend says, there was a secret passage to be used only by the pure of heart, leading to a lion's den below the castle. The journey had been long and laborious, the lands of Castle Thornheart cursed and blighted by the dark rituals of the council. The air grew cold, the earth beneath their feet went brittle and lifeless. Ira didn't stop to heed the evil that wished to break their hearts. Avalon dismounted when they neared the castle. It was the stealth his senses told him was best. Before them lay the ruins of ambition's folly, its towers clawing at the sky like the dead man's fingers. Within the walls, the Shadowed Council plotted, their desires as twisted as the castle's spires. Avalon found the passage as foretold, hidden beneath the withered roots of a once majestic oak. The entrance, sealed by magic, yielded to his touch, a beacon of purity in a land defiled. The passage led deep under the earth, into darkness, where the faint ethereal glow of Mother Althea's talismans guided him. The undercroft of Castle Thornheart was a place of whispers, the air rich with the muffled echoes of the council's plotting. Avalon slipped through like a shadow, unnoticed by the guards, his feet guided by the guiding light within. The council streamed in with dusk, their voices enmeshing in a harmony of ill intentions as they filled the chamber. Avalon listened to schemes to strengthen their hold upon eldergloom from the shelter of shadow, himself unnoticed in the very midst of them. The sorceress of nightfall gets restive, hissed another council member. Her hunger for power knows no boundaries. We keep her as an ally, or it's over for us. And the night? Another asked, worry creeping into his voice. There are rumors of, a third sneered with increased confidence in his speech, of a warrior of purest heart in search of the sunfire crystal. Let him come, confidently snarled a fourth. He will find only his death at our hands. Avalon's heart burned with the pieces of his resolve falling into place as if guided by an unseen hand. The arrogance of the council would be their undoing. Knowledge of their plans and identity of their allies armed him as he prepared to make good his escape, his mission clear. As silently as he had arrived, the knight emerged from the shadows of Castle Thornheart. To the enshrouding night, the light was a secret. Once more mounted on Era, Avalon saw the sorceress of nightfall, the next thread woven into the tapestry of eldergloom's salvation.